Hey there, welcome to Millennium Milestone Presents, a site dedicated to storytelling in books, movies, video games, and other exciting genres, where this is one island tree I'm willing to die for. Nope, scratch that, not that island, no. Well, while I got caught up in the hype for Iron Lung, it completely slipped my mind that there was another underlying story happening at the same time, that this movie was going up against a Disney-funded film, that of Send Help. The story follows Linda Little, a brilliant but socially awkward, overlooked researcher at a major financial firm. She's constantly belittled and passed over for promotions by her sexist, nepo baby boss, Bradley Preston. The plot takes a literal nosedive when a business trip to Bangkok ends in a terrifying plane crash. Linda and severely injured Bradley are the only survivors stranded on a remote desert island. However, the damsel in distress trope is flipped on its head. Linda is a hardcore superfan of the show Survivor and possesses an encyclopedic knowledge of wilderness survival. As Bradley's physical health fails, Linda takes command, leading a gruesome and psychological power shift where she begins to exact natural justice for years of office place abuse. So think of it like Misery meets 7 Days, 6 Nights. So right off the bat, Rachel McAdams puts off a very convincing performance as a very awkward socialite in the business space. It's definitely a different departure from what I've seen her done in other roles where she's the romantic interest or the damsel in distress. I would go as far as saying that it's a very similar performance to that of Michelle Pfeiffer in the Batman Returns movie, where she went from a very socially awkward businesswoman to being that of the vicious, dangerous Catwoman. That vicious side begins to develop itself as we notice little tidbits of what she can be from underneath all that. We see her watching, or binge watching, I should say, tons of episodes of Survivor where she just watches everything and studies everything about it. So there's definitely something there about her that we get to learn later on. The movie is directed by Sam Raimi, who's known for most popularly the Spider-Man franchise when it first came out in the 2000s. But he's also known for not only the comedic side of his directing abilities, but also that of the horror elements, where he's done movies like Drag Me to Hell or Evil Dead. Next up, we're introduced to Dylan O'Brien, who was best known for his role as Styles in the Teen Wolf series in the early 2000s, and also later on in the Maze Runner trilogy.
I see no value in you. Does that make sense?
As for his character, there's only just one word to describe him.
Oh, please.
This description is best served when Preston informs Linda that he's given the vice president position to someone else, basically a golf buddy in the office, and this sets off Linda on a mission to regain that position that she was promised by Preston's father. However, Preston plays her a little bit and only promises that if she rides on a plane to Bangkok and proves her worth that she can handle a business meeting, she might get the job. But other things happen. The plane ride to Bangkok becomes the plane ride to hell, as the passengers all die except the exception of two very important people that are still in this story. Both Linda and Preston make it to an island that's completely deserted, and now Linda gets to put her survival skills to the test from everything she's learned on Survivor, and it shows in every way, where she's able to gather water, make fire, and tend to Preston, who's unconscious at least for a day and a half. Meanwhile, Preston is having to learn that how much the power dynamic has changed, as now he's the injured one, sick and completely unable to tend for himself, as he has to rely completely on Linda to survive on this island as well. As for my impressions of the film, Sam Raimi, he's a master when it comes to that comedic yet terrifying horror that he brings to his movies. It shows here as we see Linda venturing into the jungle to get what she and Preston need to survive, such as hunting a boar or doing other dangerous things. Now, I don't say that to mean that she's being some sort of a Mary Sue in this case. In fact, I find the way Sam Raimi tells the story is very understandable and makes sense with her character being the survivalist in that way. This I can get behind. Going back to the story, though, the power dynamic begins to shift even more so when Preston tries to go out on his own to do things for himself and prove that to Linda that he can do anything she can, which backfires on him as he ends up going back to her to surrender and basically have to prove to her that he needs her help and that he could be a important part of the team. So now Linda's the boss and Preston is the employee. Gotta say, the back and forth, subtle, devious acts between these two characters is quite interesting, and it's a dynamic where you do root for Linda in this, but there is this interesting dynamic where you wonder what Preston will come up with next to try and thwart her power over him. So I will give credit to Sam Raimi. He knocked it out of the park with this story. I think this is really where he thrives in this type of thriller / horror, dread, comedic tone that he loves to do in his movies. This is definitely back to form for him. When you look back at Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, I was not a huge fan of that film and the way it worked out for him in that, and I still blame Marvel more for that than him in terms of how that movie was made. There is one last thing to mention regarding Send Help, and that's, of course, how it pairs up to Iron Lung, the indie film that came out and pretty much is number 1 ahead of it as I last checked in the box office numbers. It's interesting to see it once again, this dynamic change of Hollywood slowly waning as now indie moviegoers are coming out there as well. It's going to be interesting how Hollywood responds to this, and if Send Help is actually a movie that sends a message also to encourage them to find more ways to be more unique in their movie storytelling instead of being driven by other agendas. In other words, less politically driven messaging and more entertainment value for the customer is really what I'm driving at here with this. And I want to say Send Help is a great film. It has a great story. There's no agenda involved with this. I was entertained by this every step of the way. So I have nothing negative to say about the film. But in terms of Hollywood itself, I do have an issue with and the way the writers have been handling things from this point onward. But going back to Send Help, it gets an excellent for me. It's a very wonderful film. And hopefully the rest of you feel the same way as well. But perhaps you guys have different takes on the movie Send Help. Please, in your comments, let me know what you think. I would love to know whether you thought it was a great film or if you thought it was negative and it was not a great film at all. Or if you thought Iron Lung was the better film. It's an interesting conversation to have right now. And like I said before, like, share, and subscribe. And you best better believe I'll be back.